Hey, what's up guys, the Strong Boys 19 here. It is time for the final 2014 review, for my channel at least, of Slipknot's 5th studio album, Point 5, The Grey Chapter. Now this is their 5th studio album, and the follow-up to that is All Hope Is Gone, which came out in the year of 2008. And guys, you know that I've been a big Slipknot fan for a very long time, so I bet my review of this album would be just mostly positive, because it's just Slipknot. They're just the band that I adore a lot, and I'm not by myself for this review, by the way. I am here with a very special guest for you guys to check out, that I would recommend, and this guy's name is Ryan, aka Super Metal 1993 on YouTube. He's just a big metal head, and he does great videos of his reviews and updates and other stuff, so I'll put his channel link in the description below. Point 5, The Grey Chapter, had been a very big surprise for most of the fans of Slipknot, because during the making of the album, I really was thinking that Slipknot were just making more new material on their more mature side of their music, like they did with Volume 3 and All Hope Is Gone. But since we heard the 2 new singles that came out before the album's official release, The Negative One and The Devil in I, it was a really big surprise to me. And on this album, it goes back to their more heavier roots, and this is their longest album to date. It is more than an hour long, and Roadrunner Records is the record label for this album. It has 14 tracks, but if you buy the special edition, I believe it has the bonus tracks and whatnot. So I'm going to let Ryan express his thoughts on Point 5, The Grey Chapter, and then it'll be my turn to express what I think of the album.
What's up everyone, this is Super Metal 1993. My take on the Slipknot 5, The Grey Chapter review. Obviously I have my own copy. This is the deluxe edition, you could say. It contains 2 bonus tracks and it is expanded artwork, but you know. In my opinion, I think this is one of the best Slipknot albums, entire discography. Personally, I prefer self-titled and Iowa a little bit more, but I personally feel that it's a lot better than All Hope Is Gone and Volume 3, The Subliminal Verses. It has a much better production on it. It's way better production than Volume 3, because personally I don't like the production on Volume 3. I thought it was a bit too, you could say, clicky, in my opinion. And it's kind of similar to All Hope Is Gone, but it's got a bit more clarity to it, I find, especially on the percussions from Sean and Chris. I think they've really brought another tone to the aspect of their instruments. I did feel like there wasn't a lot of work from Craig and Sid on this album compared to the previous albums. I think it's kind of dwelled down a little bit, but I do kind of like that touch, because, as I said, it's a great touch. Bass work, new bassist, I feel, is a very good add to the band. Obviously, with me being a massive fan of Slipknot for many years, and obviously I've got a Slipknot tattoo as well, I do feel that yes, Paul's gone and that side and all that, but you've got loads of people saying like, oh, bring Paul back, even though they don't. They probably know he's dead and stuff like that. But I personally believe that the bass tone on this album and the new bassist is bringing a new lease of life to Slipknot. It's nothing better, it's nothing worse, it's just something a lot different, and I do really respect that a lot. Same case with the new drummer. Joey, I've always liked his drumming, but I've never fell in love with his drumming, in all honesty. But this new drummer's a very tight drummer. He's playing some really, really quite techy kind of drum patterns throughout the course of the album, and I feel like he's brought the big pounder Slipknot, because, well, his drum tones, just style is just perfect Slipknot, if you ask me. And there'll be a lot of elitists now being sort of like, oh, well, Joey wants Slipknot. And to be honest, that Slipknot, if someone can bring in a new lease of life to Slipknot but still keep it that Slipknot characteristic, then I definitely believe that he's well endowed in the band. Guitar tone, a typical Slipknot tone from previous albums, such as All Hope's Gone, for example. It's a very similar tone to that. The leads on this album are a lot more melodic, if you ask me, and I felt like the last album had a bit too much of a, how can we say, fret wankage, really, as it's come to be known in my part of the UK. But I still feel like the leads are very strong in this album, and the grooves are some of the tightest grooves that I've heard come out of Slipknot, especially on the tracks like Devil and I, that machine gun kind of Fear Factory kind of. It just sounds awesome, if you ask me. Corey's vocals, I'm going to be honest, after hearing All Hope Is Gone and then seeing him live, I felt his voice wasn't the same live. It just didn't. I think it was just the mix behind it was a lot more stronger. But this one, it feels a lot more natural, that he's just coming out with how he feels, and his lyrics are really reacting well with that, if you ask me. And I definitely feel that these are some of his strongest lyrics to date, and they're a lot more meaningful, I'd say. Overall, I think it's a fantastic album. I think it's one of my favourites of 2014 for sure. I've had it on repeat quite a few times. On my top album list, you'll obviously find out where it appears, because it is in the top 20 without even thinking twice about that. If I had to pick some songs, I think The Devil and I is definitely my favourite one. It's just stuck with us. But if I had to pick a second one, would definitely be Custer, because it definitely has that groove-esque that Slipknot's been known for from the self-titled album all the way up to this album. So I definitely feel like this is a good album. If I was to give it a rating myself, I'd give it a strong 9 out of 10. A very strong 9 out of 10, if you ask me.
Alright, so that is Ryan's quick review on Point 5, The Grey Chapter. So, The Grey Chapter had been, just like the other 2014 releases that I love, it had to be one of my most anticipated albums of the year. But like I said about the sound of this album, the band changed their music to much more of their older previous sound, which does bring some more of the aggression like their first two albums, but at some points on some of these songs it does have quite like a deep soft type of tone, especially when the band would play soft and Corey would sing in a more cleaner, proper singing type of voice. But the aggression, is still there from Slipknot, and there are just a lot of songs on this album that do bring back their more aggressive roots, and the production of this album is really, really good. Although the mixing for me of this album can be just one little flaw, that's one negative point that I find of this album, just the mixing. The drums sometimes can be overpowering and a bit too loud than the other instruments, and the guitar sound sounds a bit more quiet than usual than the other instruments. So next time, I just wish that the distortion from the guitars could be done with more louder volume in the mix. But overall, most of the songs on this album do have a lot of really big, heavy punches from these tracks, and some of the choruses are really memorable as well, especially, you know, Sarcastrophe, The Devil in I, The Negative One, Custer. There's just some really catchy moments on this entire album. This is just particularly the album dedicated to Paul Gray because he passed in 2010, and there's one song on this album that refers to Paul, and that is the song Goodbye. And Slipknot are a very serious band, but when they go to their more softer, mature sound, I think it works absolutely well. I mean, you know, there are just other songs in this album that Corey does sing in a more softer tone, like Goodbye, of course, and the other vocals of the Cleans have been involved. Songs like AOV, The Devil in I, and just the other songs. The songwriting, on the other hand, sometimes it can be really simple, but some of these guitar riffs do have a lot of punch and quite chugging guitar riffs, and the distortion from the guitar sound is absolutely great. The drumming from the new drummer is actually quite unique. I mean, I do love Joey Jordison, but I prefer him when he was more aggressive, bringing more action on the drums like he did with the first two albums, because he did bring a lot of skill, and he, I'd say, does have the potential to be a fantastic metal drummer. But this new drummer for this album is actually really good, and I think he is much more better live, especially from the Knotfest performance. Bass guitar tone is actually quite great. The sound does have a really deep tone, and bass guitar work is actually quite great, and simple music can be really interesting as well if it's memorable, catchy, and just you know easy to listen to. So overall, Point 5, The Grey Chapter by Slipknot is, in my opinion, just one of the best releases of this entire year. And, you know, Greg Fidelman and Slipknot did produce this album very, very well. And let me know what you guys think of this album in the comments below. The songs in general, aggression is there, the mature, soft moments are there. You know, if you just want some good old Slipknot, buy this album. So as for a rating, I would give this a strong 9.5 out of 10. I know that's just quite obvious of me because both Ryan and I are big Slipknot fans, but it is in the top 5 of my favourite albums of 2014. So yeah, I highly recommend this album. So yeah, that's really all I've got to say. And you know, big thanks to Ryan, aka Super Metal 1993, for joining in with me to this review. And like I said, check out his channel. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll keep you guys posted for more videos in the future, and keep it metal.